Last time I talked a bit about the currently troubled DC Extended Universe and promised to talk about my favorite DC comic superhero in this episode, a promise I'm keeping now. So let's talk about Terry McGinnis, aka Batman Beyond. Throughout the 90s, Paul Dini and Bruce Timm's Batman the Animated Series was a major hit on Fox Kids, and their Superman animated series on Kids WB was also pretty successful, especially so when teamed up with the 4th season of Batman in an hour-long block called The New Batman Superman Adventures. The team working on this and what would soon branch out into being the DC Animated Universe wanted to follow up on these two hit shows with Justice League, but a meeting with Jamie Kellner, head of the network, would dash those plans. At the time, Warner wanted shows with young protagonists on their Kids WB block, so Justice League wasn't going to fly. Instead, Kellner wanted Dini, Tim, Alan Burnett, and their team to start a new Batman show with a teenage version of the character, which had already been approved with 2 blank checks. One to finish production on the current Batman and Superman shows, and another for this new show. The team was distraught, feeling that making Bruce Wayne a teenager just to appeal to younger audiences would greatly go against what made Batman, well, Batman. Tim was about to leave the whole thing when Dini and Burnett pitched him what would become the opening scene of the pilot, in which, about 30 years after their Batman show, Bruce Wayne suffers a heart attack and has to defend himself with a gun on what would be his last night out, becoming a recluse who allows his company to be the victim of a hostile takeover by a man named Derek Powers. Tim loved the idea for the scene so much that he immediately decided to work on the show and make it as good as it could possibly be as a Batman show, while also making it distinct enough from its predecessor to stand out on its own. The next major step was deciding how a newer, younger Batman would come about 20 years after Bruce gives up the cowl. Ultimately, the team came up with the original character Terry McGinnis, a 17-year-old high school student who used to be a juvenile delinquent with divorced parents and a strained relationship with his father Warren, an employee at Wayne Powers. One night, Terry leaves home to go out with his girlfriend despite being grounded, leading to a confrontation with some of Neo-Gotham's most notorious gangsters, the Jokers, who idolize the Clown Prince of Crime to the point of becoming clowny criminals. Terry tries to shake them off his tail but ends up cornered on the property of Bruce Wayne. The two fend off the gang, but Bruce needs Terry's assistance to get back to Wayne Manor to take his meds. Once Bruce is passed out, Terry accidentally discovers the Batcave and Bruce angrily kicks him out of the manor, banning him from returning. When Terry returns home, he finds his father has been murdered and the house sprayed with ha-has a la the Joker. He moves in with his mom and younger brother and finds one of his father's data discs while unpacking. The disc turns out to contain plans for a biological weapon being developed at Wayne Powers, and he decides to bring it to Bruce Wayne, seeing as how not only is Bruce one of the major players at the company, but he's also Batman. Bruce is furious at the discovery, but urges Terry to give the disc to the police. On the way to do just that, Terry is jumped by Powers and his assistant Mr. Fix, and the disc is taken from him. Terry then breaks into the Batcave, steals the high-tech Batsuit Bruce used last, complete with wings, microphones, enhanced vision, jet boots, and other cool toys, and infiltrates Wayne Powers to stop the shipment of the nerve gas to war-torn countries. Bruce finds out and tries shutting down the suit remotely, but ultimately allows Terry to move on and even helps him stop the shipment. Some of the stuff gets loose and infects Powers, but we'll come back to him in a second. After succeeding in his mission, Terry returns home and wakes up to find Bruce in his living room offering him a job as his personal assistant, in reality just a cover for Terry to take up the mantle of Batman, and thus was the origin of the Tomorrow Night. Meanwhile, Derek Powers is treated for his nerve gas affliction with heavy doses of radiation, transforming him into the radioactive supervillain Blight and cementing him as possibly the most interesting villain in the entire series. Not the best villain, but the most interesting. As Blight, he was able to test Terry/Batman as a superpowered foe, while as Powers, he and Bruce struggled for control in Wayne Powers, since the whole fiasco with Terry stealing the Batsuit and exposing the bioweapons urged him into taking an active role in his company again. It all comes to a head in the first season finale, in which Powers tries to have his son Paxton take over the company and his secret identity as Blight is revealed. Batman confronts the isolated Blight, and before ending it all, he learns just how despicable Derek Powers really was.
Who are you?
You really want to know?
Yes.
You killed my father.
Do you have the slightest idea how little that narrows it down?
What I really like about Terry is how he grows as a character and isn't just a younger Bruce Wayne. He has trouble balancing his personal life, schoolwork, and Batman in a manner akin to Spider-Man, but over the course of the series, he does try his best to make it all work, even going so far as coming out to his family that he's Batman, though they just laugh at the idea. He's headstrong and a bit cocky, but he has a strong sense of justice. His fighting style isn't really strength-based like Bruce's was. He's more acrobatic like a Robin, which, unsurprisingly, is what a chunk of fans see him as, just a Robin. His relationship with Bruce is a very nicely done mentor-student dynamic, and Kevin Conroy does an amazing job playing an older, tired, more grizzled Bruce Wayne. To see the character fall so far from the first season of Batman the Animated Series, even just physically, is pretty hard to handle, but Conroy sells it incredibly well. The show won a couple of Emmys in Outstanding Animated Program in Music Composition and Sound, and just let me tell you guys, the music in the show is great. It matches the cyberpunk aesthetic of the visuals perfectly and really does help to set it apart from its predecessor. The show ran for 3 seasons and got a direct-to-video movie that's killing joke levels of messed up, and Terry would also make appearances on Static Shock and Justice League Unlimited, the latter of which actually gave the series a proper conclusion. Eventually, Batman Beyond got a pretty solid comic book run following on from the continuity of the show, but that's a whole other episode, and I feel I've been focusing too much on DC these first couple episodes. Seriously guys, check out Batman Beyond, it's fucking great.